Hello and welcome to the channel. I'm Golden. This may be the first time you're seeing me on the channel, and I know it's been a couple of months. So I just want to, apologize for the brief delay, but I'm back now, and hopefully more content coming, more tutorials, more videos, and more other things. So I'm very happy and excited for what's in store. So in this video, I'll be showing you how I made this poster design when Carlos Alcaraz won the Australian Open. So I'll be breaking down how I made this, how I structure my files, and added color grading after everything. So stay in touch. So to begin, I'm just going to disable everything except the original background layer. So let me just do that real quick. So in case you didn't know, if you want to just select one layer, hold Alt or Option, and then just click the eye icon, and then only that layer should be visible. And if you want to toggle it back, just hold Option again or Alt on Windows and click it, and then everything comes back. So yes, how did I create this design? Well, it started like this with this plain background. So after I got images rather, I then decided to start adding the individual images. So this is one. So the concept I had here was a giant hero image as the main focus, and then complementary images showcasing his victory or moments from the match, which was very pivotal. I wanted to show his energy during the match because he's a very energetic player. Yeah, so this is one where he's caressing the trophy. The other is this, which is the main hero image, and then I got this other image where he was running, sprinting across, which I used as the, okay, let me see if this is it. Nope. Let's see. Okay, that's it. Yes. So these are the images I got started with. These three images. I didn't want to put much because I knew I wanted to put text somewhere. So my original idea was to replicate a former design I made for Alcaraz when he won at Wimbledon. I'm going to attach it somewhere on the screen. That was what I was going for, but then I was like, let me change it. I don't want the design to be the same. So yes, after I got these three images, I then started color correcting some. And then fading out the backgrounds. You will notice layer masks on each of them. So like this is the layer mask. Let me just do it so you see how that layer mask is. And then for the main hero image, this is the mask to fade the bottom. Once that was done, I then decided to add some gradient map. So in case you don't know what gradient maps are, they are gradients, but you use them to map between highlight, shadows, and midtones. And depending on how you apply it, using either blend modes or opacity, you can create really interesting results. So in this case, I want you to focus on the main image here. So we see the before. If I zoom in and then I click, and you see that difference. So I'm just going to toggle that on and off. So it gives it like this golden color. So I did this for the three images to create a coincide look. Yes, and also for this. So let me toggle that on too. So gradient map. Yes. Okay. Next was to add shadows and highlights for this, but before that I needed to know where my light sources are coming from. So I do this in all my designs, where before I start adding light sources on the characters themselves, on the images, what I do is I go back to my background layer, and then I use the exposure adjustment layer to add these lights. So for example, this is the first one. I added this light using a soft round brush on both sides. So I knew that the light was coming from the left and right, but at different heights. So that was something to consider. So next, for the background, I darkened the bottom. And why I did this was I wanted to create a reflection for this particular foreground image where he's reaching to strike the ball. And I wanted to make it look like it's on a glassy surface. And to do that, I preferred a darker background. So after that, I then recolored those highlights by using a new solid adjustment, solid color adjustment layer rather. And now you see I also increase the brightness of the button, because most of the time once I'm designing, I decide on something, but then I adjust them as I go into the design more and more. So yes, that's one interesting thing about design. You continue adjusting until the very final moment. So yes, let's get started now into the main composition. So for the main image here in the foreground, I then added some shadows, which you see here. And for these shadows, I have made a video on how to create them. If you don't know, I have a second channel where I dedicate to solely for Photoshop tutorials. So I'm going to link the video in here. So it's very easy to create these shadows. You don't need like a plugin. You can manually do them using like brushes and modifying the settings to make it flatter. And then I added the text. So for this I use the font VSB CF. That's the name of the font I use here. And so I broke down the text like Carlos, and then I was just playing around with different things, and then I brought in this green to complement his green from the day he won it, and then I just added a bunch of other text, So one thing about text, if you notice on my designs, most of them, my football designs, my F1 designs, I love adding text. I just feel it adds in a whole new life to them. Though this year I'm going to explore more alternative methods, especially in my F1 designs coming up since the F1 season has started. So that's something to watch out for too. I'll be releasing videos every week of the designs I make. And if you would like me to make them in this format where I speak to you like you see me, and it's more of a slower paced video where I explain things, please let me know. I really enjoy making that. So let's go back this first. So for the main images, I then added other adjustment layers. So I added the curves for shadows, and to achieve this particular look, I then masked it. So you see most of my files have layer masks. If you don't know how to use layer masks and you like me to make a tutorial, please let me know. I also have a tutorial on layer masks, by the way, on my other channel, and I'll link it on the screen too. So let's go on. For this, I also added a selective color to bump up the reds in the skin to give more life to it. And then for the highlights, how I create my highlights are, I use exposure adjustment layers. So on the brighter end, that's how I do them. So you see like before and after, before, after. Most of the time I try to stick to existing light sources, but you'll notice that my lights are coming from the back and the front here, so they had to like match. So next, for this one where it's holding the trophy, I did the same thing. I added some shadows and then increased the reds to give more life to it, an exposure layer for highlights. I then colored those exposure layers using a hue and saturation adjustment layer. And you will notice in my work I love using adjustment layers. They are very helpful because it's non-destructive. You can always go to edit them, So let's see what's next. Yes, this one where he's hitting the ball. Then also the same thing, added some curves for the shadows, especially those muscle definitions. I wanted to highlight them, so I had to manually paint this in. Most of the time, if you want your light sources to look okay, you have to like manually. I know now in modern versions of Photoshop, there's like the recolor, harmonize rather feature, but it's always nice from time to time to still manually go in there and make these changes. This next part, I decided to add some text behind this foreground image where he's striking the ball, and I decided to add the Australian Open text there, and then I added some shadows there just to simulate like it's actually in front of the text. And now you see, like with the text and everything, not too much, but just with the vital pieces I wanted, everything was already falling into place. And initially I wanted to export like this, but I didn't because I needed to add a few more things. Just as I said earlier, the more you make designs towards the end, you realize, oh, I need to add this, I need to add this. So I then added this with a motion blur, if I remember correctly. Nothing fancy, just to simulate like lights strobing, something like that. Let's see, I also, for the background, I also added a few more things. For example, I added another exposure adjustment layer there to the text, so it's, the light bounces off the text. I then added these rectangles or shapes you will see behind him, and then with some little subtle textures and patterns rather. And these little things, I feel they make a design come together as a whole. And when everything was done, decided to add my logo. So I created this shape, added some light to it, added my logo. And when I was fine with everything, I then created a camera raw filter. So let me open this camera raw filter for us to see what's going on here. Let's expand this so you see what it contains. So I increased the contrast, and then I also increased textures, grain, and color grading. Yes, so the highlights, I wanted to change the hues to a cool bluish cyan kind of color. So that's what I did. And then sharpening, I sharpened it, and then I added a vignette for those dark edges you see there. So once that was done, I then duplicated it all over again and just made some additional tweaks, and yes, that's how I made this design in Photoshop. If you like this design, like you want a JPEG of it, please let me know. I'll be very happy to share it with you. And if you like this style of video where I speak to the camera, like a one-on-one slower paced video, please let me know. I'll be happy to make more. Yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.